Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. I am Zee Garcia, and today we are talking Travelin. It's all going to be about traveling, going someplace. Games with gorgeous big maps, games about picking up and delivering goods, traveling. And I hope you yourself will not be traveling. I hope you'll be sticking around with us. And as always, thank you for doing so, and thank you for joining us. I will not delay any further. Let's get to it, folks. Enjoy the show.
Hello friends of the Blend, and welcome to Retro Board Game Corner. Hopefully everybody had a Merry Christmas and a great start to the new year. If you're a first-time viewer here on my segment, I talk about old board games. Maybe you heard of some of them, maybe you haven't. Well, today we're talking about traveling, and I got a game here for you. It's called the Bermuda Triangle, published in 1975 by Milton Bradley. In this 2 to 4 player game, you are going to maneuver your ships along a path here, picking up commodities while trying to avoid the sinister cloud known as the Bermuda Triangle. Be careful because it might swallow your ship up. Let me set this up and show you how it works. So this is what the game board will look like set up. First thing you need to do is every person picks a color and then puts one ship of his own color on each one of the 4 ports. So there's going to be bananas, oil, lumber, and sugar that you're trying to collect. Then you're going to shuffle down these cards and put them face down right behind each port. Now to move, you're going to roll a 6-sided dice and move that many numbers along the path where these little ships are here. You can only move in one direction. There's only a few rules of movement. That is, whatever you roll, you have to take that many moves. And you cannot at any time go underneath the cloud, or when the cloud is covering your boat, you cannot move that boat. You have to go ahead and move one of your other boats. To collect any one of these cards, all you need to do is make sure that there's an empty spot on the port. So when you come here, you don't even have to get there by exact count. You can just go right to the port. That's the only time where you don't have to take the exact count of the dice, is when you're going to the port. Once your ship lands in the port, what you'll do is just draw the top card and it'll have a dollar amount. And that card now belongs to you. Now every player is going to get to roll and move their ships one time. After all the players have rolled and moved their ships, it's time to move the sinister cloud or the Bermuda Triangle here. And how you do that is with the spinner here. You're going to spin the spinner, and first you're going to read the enter letters here. So whatever letter it lands on, that's how the cloud is going to rotate around like this. And there's a little notch up here on the top to see where you get it. So for example, if I had spun right there where the H is at, I'll just turn this in the direction the arrows are going all the way till I get back to the letter H right there. Now, then you go to the next pink circles here, and you're going to move the cloud 7 spaces to the east. So there's little black pips everywhere on the board. So I'm just going to move the cloud 7 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now at any time that the cloud moves over a ship, it could swallow up the cloud like this. That ship is now out of play and lost in the Bermuda Triangle. The game is over in 2 different ways. One way is if somebody reaches $350,000 worth of commodities, or if everybody has lost all their ships, the person that has the most money in commodities is the winner. This great little board game has entertained me for a lot of years, and I've shown this game to kids as young as 6 years old, and they get very excited when the cloud is moving around and, oh, is my ship going to disappear? It just provides great loads of fun. Well, that's all the time I have for now. Join me next time when I showcase another great board game from the past. May your rolls be high.
Hi there, we have traveled through space and time continuum to deliver you the latest Blender segment. And I'm Alina, and here's Ilya. You know, space and time makes some weird tricks, mutations. So yeah, let's get to the segment. Now, today we will talk about the pick up and deliver game. Now, what's the pick up delivery mechanic? Basically, you are in a location where you're gonna pick up some goods or stuff or whatever you're gonna pick up and deliver it to the new location and get the reward for that. That's basically a pick up and delivery mechanic.
And game we're gonna talk about is Bus.
Bus.
This is game by Chris Handy. It's a small deck of cards. You build the town and you are the bus driver. You need to pick up the passengers and deliver them to correct places. You manage speed, you choose route, and you choose the passengers. So really nice, and I bet the tiniest pick up and deliver game in existence.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. We have some time now, over.
Yeah. So what should we talk about? Okay. Let's talk about Kings of Air and Steam. Here we have Kings of Air and Steam. So that's basically a pick up and delivery game in a steampunk setting where you have your airship and you're gonna deliver goods from factories to depots and from depots to cities that demand them. And that's basically it. You're gonna get money. Whoever has the most money at the end of the game is the winner of the game. So what's so cool about this game?
The first really cool thing about the game is theme and the setting. Most of the pick-up deliver games are boring and dry train games. Here, instead of a plain map, you have really beautiful, full of details, bird's eye view map. And instead of plain trains, you have these super cool and with tons of details airships. So that would be the first thing to note about the game.
Of course, mechanics themselves are really cool here. We have the pick up and delivery mechanic, and we have movement programming mechanic. If you combine them, you get something really interesting. So you have some movement cards that are from 4 to 1, so on, maybe some extra cards. But you're gonna program 4 moves ahead, how your airship moves, how fast the airship moves, and where you're gonna pick up the goods and deliver the goods. So that's really cool. You don't get too much downtime because everyone is programming it the same time, so you can play with many players and not get too much downtime. That's the thing. You can also upgrade your airship. You get the special ability of the character as well. You get the pilot. You get to upgrade your ship. If you upgrade to the end, you get some really cool extra cards, or you get the extra points as well. So I think that's great about this game.
Yep. And I would say that this is a quite simple game, but it's not as simple as you would think. You cannot deliver goods from factories directly to the towns. No, they have to go through the depots and railroad. So you need to pick up, then put down, unload in the depot, and then deliver to the towns. You just need to make sure that you have enough depots between you and the town. So there's quite a lot to manage.
Yeah, and the market itself, the last thing, the market, where you get the cheaper goods and more expensive goods, and the prices vary from turn to turn. But when you get some cheaper and more expensive goods, you need to make choices throughout the game, whether you go far away to get the more expensive goods, for example, or you go near to get cheaper goods. So you're going to risk more or less, thus you get more or less money. So I think it's really cool extra strategy layer in this game. So everything, artwork, components, theme, mechanics themselves are really great. So we recommend this game, definitely recommend this game.
This game is made by Scott Alms, who makes just all awesome games. And he's running Kickstarter project now, the Tiny Epic Western. You need to back it.
Yeah. You'll be fooled, my boys, if you don't back that Kickstarter. See you next time.
Hey there, I'm John from JonGetsGames, and today I'll be discussing the various interesting ways that Black Fleet uses its traveling and pick up and deliver mechanics. So let's start with the travel. If you don't know how the game works, every player has 2 different ships in their control that they're going to be piloting around all these different islands in this crazy claustrophobic Caribbean Sea. One of these ships is a merchant, and it's going to be picking up goods and delivering them to different ports, but I'll get to that in just a little bit. Another ship that you have is a pirate ship. Now what this does is it sails around the same seas, but you're trying to get goods, capture goods from other people's merchants. So it's a bit claustrophobic. You're trying to move your goods while also steal other people's goods. And finally, there are these 2 neutral ships that are like naval ships, and all they want to do is cruise around and destroy the pirates. And since they're neutral, people control them on each one of their turns, but it isn't necessarily theirs. You might move the purple naval ship in one direction and sink one pirate on one turn, and the next person's turn they might turn that ship around and they'll sink yours. So when it comes to traveling, you have 3 different ships that you move on every single turn. You have a card that you play that shows you the movement value for all 3 of those ships, and you're going to be choosing from multiple cards in your hand, so you have some decisions here. And it's just very interesting. You're not just traveling from one point to another. You're really trying to think of all these 3 different things that are going on in concert, and I haven't seen another game where you are moving so many things on every single turn, and it definitely makes this relatively large board feel very tight. Like everywhere you look, there's something good and something bad in pretty much equal directions. So now if we want to talk about the pick up and deliver aspect, it's pretty straightforward. You pick up cubes from one port and you sail them over and you sell them at another port, and the farther away that port is from the first one you picked up, the more money you're going to get. However, when you mix in the fact that you're trying to dodge other people's pirates, it really complicates matters and it makes it quite interesting. So you might want to go for that one port over there because you can sell every good for $4 each. But suddenly the naval ship sinks a couple pirate ships, and when the pirate ships sink, they come back onto the board on that person's next turn from any one of 3 corners of the board. So suddenly you might be heading in that direction, and now there's 2 pirate ships coming over there. You have to change course and veer over in another direction, and you have to be really tactical to a certain degree. Like, you want to get the most money you can, but ultimately if you don't have goods, then you're not going to get money. And also, just when people steal stuff from you, they get the good, but they also just get money. And at the end of the day, this game is a race to get as much money as possible so that you can unlock a bunch of powers and ultimately save the governor's daughter, ransom the governor's daughter, I suppose. So in the end, I really love this movement mechanic and how it integrates with the pick up and deliver mechanic. So it's not just a pick up and deliver game. You're doing that amongst all these other things, but you do have to pick up and deliver things well in order to compete. So all in all, it's got some great traveling stuff mixed up into this wonderful looking box.
For today's quirky game, we are taking a look at Troll Land. That is Troll Land. Yes, there are 3 L's in there. Now, this is a bizarre, quirky little French game, which I got thanks to my good friend Senate, so thank you, Senate. And in this one, the gameplay itself is not particularly strange. It's sort of a card allocation, hand management sort of game. But it is the theme that really makes this game stand out in a particularly French, non-PC sort of way. Now, the game does say in several places that it is, of course, tongue-in-cheek, and it's supposed to be, a humorous theme, while maybe, a little bit jabbing at current events and current society. But basically, the idea of the game here is that there are many characters who have come into Trollland and they have overrun the place, and so we need to start as the trolls in Trollland, deporting all these characters to their respective lands. And you've got it's a fantasy cast of characters. You've got the dwarves and elves and goblins and some maybe less than PC and unfortunately named Amazon warriors, I guess they're supposed to be. But anyway, again, I think something got lost in translation there. The game itself is pretty funny if you are okay with that theme, which I think, and again, I know where the idea of the game is sort of coming from, then I think it's pretty funny. The concept of you gathering these people up and, for lack of a better term, sending them back to their country is messed up, but humorous, and I think it's a clever game anyway. I am glad I was able to check it out. I'm glad I was able to play it. As far as the gameplay itself, you are going to be picking some cards from your hand and putting them face down on the table, and then revealing those cards when your character type comes up and assigning them to specific cages. Yes, we're putting these people in cages to send them back. If you're the one who fills the cage up entirely, well, you score some points. But of course, therein lies the problem, because you're not sure what everybody else is playing. Play is simultaneous, and so you are never quite sure if you are playing early enough, if you might end up playing too late, if you're playing a number that is going to trump someone else's number and you'll be able to go first. And so there's all of these interesting trappings. And then at the end of the game, which is when these, let's call them transportation, shall we? When the transportation runs out, then you are going to count up the characters you have collected. They have little suitcases in the top of the cards, and you are going to see who has the most points. Again, a very simple game mechanically, and ultimately really not something that is mind-blowing or anything. It's an alright game. I've enjoyed it, but I have played with people who did not enjoy it. But the theme itself is bizarre, and you are going to get some head shakes, and you might even get some people going, whoa, there's something wrong here. But again, you have to go into it knowing it is, of course, a bit of a social commentary. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek game. So there you have it. That is Trollland for you for the quirky game of the episode. See you on the next one.
Howdy gamers, and welcome to Buy, Try, or Deny. I'm Indiana John. Today our topic is games that are about traveling, either by car, by boat, by plane, by train, or maybe on your own 2 feet. In other words, here are 3 games that are definitely going places. Maybe into your game collection, or maybe to the nearest dumpster. Let's get moving. Today's Buy game is a re-implementation of 2 games by famous game designer Wolfgang Kramer, Wildlife Adventure and Expedition. Because I'm talking about Expedition Famous Explorers. And in this game you are on 3 simultaneous expeditions around the world. You're trying to get rid of the cards in your hand that have locations on them by traveling across those locations with your expeditions. The expeditions are represented by little lines of plastic arrows, and on your turn you can extend one of those lines to go the direction that you want to go. But your opponent might want to go a completely different direction. So you can sort of think about it as being multiple players that are trying to steer the same car, and so it can be a lot of back and forth and sort of take that, and it's a great amount of fun. It's a great family game because I find that the games where people are yelling at each other sometimes tend to be the most fun family games. It's a simple concept, but it's one that really works. There's some other little special things in the game that will allow you to sort of strategize a little bit about how you move around those expeditions, but ultimately it's about getting rid of the cards in your hand. It plays for up to 6 players and in about an hour, and it's really a lot of fun. It's a great game for families that I think has flown under the radar and doesn't get nearly as much love as it should. So I would highly recommend as our buy this time, Expedition Famous Explorers. Today's try game is a 2-player game that has one of the strangest themes I've ever seen in a game, and that is morels. This game is about foraging in the forest for mushrooms and then getting points by collecting them together and cooking them in a frying pan with butter and or apple cider. I believe this game was also reprinted under the name Fungi by some other publishers. So this is a really interesting little 2-player game where you are collecting these cards, like I said, and putting them together and then cooking them for points. There's a sort of a card row which sort of represents this walk through the woods. And the reason why this game is a try for me instead of a buy is that card mechanic, it's a little bit, I would just call it fiddly. We use that word a lot in gaming, but it's just a lot of manipulation of the cards where you have to move them down every single time. And I felt when I was playing it like there should have been some sort of automated conveyor belt that just moved the cards automatically for me. So there was just a lot of movement of the cards all the time. It's a little bit more complex than a simpler game like Patchwork, which is a recent 2-player game that I think has real tight, elegant mechanics. This one's a little bit more involved, so it might not appeal to to non-gamers or maybe couples where one's a gamer and one's not. But I think it's a fun game, and it's got really cool components to it. If you're able to get a hold of one of the older upgraded versions, there's actually little plastic or wooden frying pans and little foraging sticks and stuff, so that's a lot of fun. But it's a good solid 2-player game, and I would definitely, especially if you like mushrooms, I don't eat mushrooms, so I have no idea, but if you like that, check out our try game this time, Morels. Today's Deny game is not in my collection, although it used to be, and that's Nuns on the Run. Nuns on the Run is a hidden movement game, which is usually a genre of games that I like quite a bit. I like Fury of Dracula, and Spectre Ops is a new one that I think is really good. This game, though, is not very much fun. In this game, you have multiple players that are performing hidden movement as they're playing nuns that are trying to travel around inside of an abbey to pick up items and then sneak them back to their room. Then you have a player who's playing the abbess and the prioress, who are kind of the security guards that are trying to catch them. The problem is that whenever you're moving in this game, if the abbess or the prioress can see you, then you have to sort of let them know that happened. And so there's a lot of just sort of fiddly line of sight stuff, and a lot of stuff can get missed. And so I think that unless everybody knows absolutely how the game is supposed to be played, knows all the intricacies of the rules, then stuff's going to get missed and it's not going to be nearly as much fun. And so this game really wore out its welcome quite quickly for me. So there's lots of really good hidden movement games out there. This is not one of them, and so I would recommend avoiding and giving a deny to Nuns on the Run. Well, there you have it, gamers. 3 games about travel. Our deny game, Nuns on the Run, our try game, Morels, and our fantastic buy game, Expedition Famous Explorers. What is your favorite game about travel? Leave me a note in the comments, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at IndieBoardGamer. Well, I gotta move on out of here, so until next time, game on.
Good afternoon.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Rebecca. Welcome to the Player Showdown. We are going to pilot you today through Airlines Europe. So make sure your tray tables and seat backs are in the upright and locked position.
At its heart, Airlines Europe is a stock collection game, but it's much, much more than that. It's true you do collect stock in various airlines as you go through the game, but you increase the value of their airlines by putting routes on the board, which during 3 scoring phases gives you more victory points for those airlines.
Let's descend a few thousand feet for a closer look. The 2-player variant flies like this. You do not use the yellow, blue, and violet share cards and airplanes. Any share cards that are discarded throughout the game are collected as a face-down discard pile. For the 3rd scoring, those discarded cards and the unclaimed Air Abacus cards are scored as a fictitious 3rd player. Otherwise, the 2-player variant runs the same as the multiplayer.
As for the 2-player variant, I think scoring the ghost player adds a randomness to the game you don't need.
Yeah, it takes a lot of extra time scoring too that seems unnecessary.
So I wouldn't do the scoring for the ghost player. I'd keep all the other 2-player variants, obviously taking out some of the airlines and things like that.
So in summation, Airlines Europe is a 2 to 5 player game, lasts about 75 minutes, and all in all, I enjoy it as both a 2-player game and a multiplayer. It's a very fun game. Some of the things that I like most about it are the different options that you have during your turn play. You can work on building your route, so you put your planes down and then you can take a card. Or you can put down your cards and get money for that. You can also pay money to get the Air Abacus cards. They're over here. Or you can just basically pass on your turn and get some more extra money so you can start planning out what you're going to do further down the road. And it even has a handy dandy little cheat sheet to keep track of what you do during your turns.
Yeah, so it's a really mid to lightweight Euro game. It kind of mixes some Ticket to Ride with the stock market kind of things. Another thing I like about it is the awesome little insert that you get with the game. You really don't see this anymore. You almost have to buy these separately for games nowadays. It has a little spot for all the airplanes and the cards. It's a great little insert that comes with the game.
I like that too. The only beef I have with the game really is the money. We have paper money, and as you can see, mine's already getting kind of wonky and bent. So it's very flimsy.
As the vassal says, say no to paper money.
So that is Airlines Europe. So if you'd like to try out a light to mid-weight Euro game, I highly recommend this one. Thank you so much for checking
Cool
out.
catchphrase!
Hey folks, welcome back to another segment of Real Talk with Sam. Thank you for being a friend of the blend, and this time on the blender we're talking about traveling, traversing large areas and that type of stuff, and picking up and deliver and a lot of different things. Pretty broad category that's going on here. However, I picked 3 games that I thought fit nicely into this little niche of our hobby. And so first of all, I'd like to talk about a game that you probably wouldn't think very heavily on, and that is this game right here, Fire and Axe, a Viking saga. Now, you might be thinking, Sam, why would you pick a Viking game for a pick up and deliver traversing traveling game? Well, quite frankly, there's a lot of that in this game. One of the main mechanics is picking up while you're in your home ports a bunch of different goods, and you're going to take those goods and deliver them to these different ports and trade and establish a trade route with all of these different cities in Europe. And so that's actually a main mechanic of Fire and Axe. It's very close to a pick up and deliver game. However, there is a lot of combat that's wrapped around it, a lot of other kinds of things that are spread throughout the game. So Fire and Axe does actually have a lot of this traversing and picking up and delivering feel to it, and it's a pretty big blip on my radar right now, so I had to talk about it. So that's Fire and Axe, a Viking saga. And then there's another one that just hit my radar on Gen Con, and it's been there for quite some time, and that is Discoveries. Now, the actual mechanisms and things that you do in the game aren't really traveling. You're not really picking up and delivering anything or anything like that, but the entire theme of the game are the journeys, the travelings and of Lewis and Clark, and all of the little memoirs and things that they wrote about it. So you do actually, the theme is traveling to all of these different things and discovering all of these new species of animals and plants and that type of stuff. So definitely fits within this genre. If you haven't tried it yet, check it out, because it has a really cool dice mechanic to it that I've really enjoyed. And then finally, the softball of the group, at least this one here, and that is this guy right here, Ticket to Ride. Now, Ticket to Ride is, of course, the as far as I'm concerned, the quintessential traveling game, train game, and Ticket to Ride Markland is my favorite of the entire line because it's the most different than the other ones. Now, I will say this, that the new map expansion, the Pennsylvania and the UK expansion, that's rising pretty heavy on my list. I've only played the UK map. I haven't played the Pennsylvania one yet, but that one I really like a lot too. I just don't have it. It's over at Tom's house. I have to figure out a way to get it. Anyway, that is my episode or segment here of traveling games. So look, you might not agree with me, but hey, I'm just trying to keep it real, y'all. See you on the flip side.
For today's Under the Radar game, I wanted to take a look at Spike here. Spike is a game about pickup and delivery. It's a game in which you are going to be building train tracks, you are going to be moving your train, you are going to be picking up goods, delivering somewhere else, and basically trying to have the most money at the end of the game. The game, I think, is a fascinating pickup and delivery game, and it's a great train game that finds a nice balance between something lighter, like a Ticket to Ride, and then something heavy like an 18XX, or more closely a Crayon-style game. This is sort of a Crayon game, like the train games in that style, but you don't actually draw on the board with a crayon. Instead, you build the track with the little plastic tracks, and it's much lighter than those games. It's shorter, it's simpler. And so I find it pretty fascinating. It gives me a lot to think about. It gives me some nice maneuvering to take into account, some pretty straightforward and simple card management. The game comes with quite a few cards, as you can see here. So there's there's a deck of cards in here, a lot like the Ticket to Ride cards, in which you are going to be drawing those cards, playing them to lay down tracks on the map. And then there's some cards that tell you what to pick up, where to take it, that sort of thing. The economic system is very straightforward, nice and clean, and everything just gels together really well for me. I don't see anybody playing this game. I don't know why. When I first played it, I thought it was really cool. I eventually got my own copy of the game, and yet I've not seen anyone checking it out. It's a train game, which we gamers tend to like, and it's got a real nice balance between, it's not too light, it's not too heavy, it's not long or short. It's got a good balance between some strategy, some tactics. So I'm not sure what's happening here. It could quite possibly be that the game comes across as an average-looking game. Perhaps people don't associate the company R&R Games with strategy games. They do mostly party games, but they are branching out from that, especially lately. They've made some interesting strategic games, and this for sure is one of them. I would recommend it highly. Spike is a very cool game. If you enjoy pickup and delivery, then you can stop this. You can stop watching and go get this game. Well, don't stop. See everybody else's segments, okay? Then go get this game. And if you are not a fan of pickup and delivery games, or you're not familiar with that, then you might still like it, because there's quite a bit happening here. Check this one out, folks. Spike. I recommend it for a game that seems to not be getting played, and I think it should be. So there you go. Spike, I'm out. Boop, 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 boop.
She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. Oh, hey guys. Sorry, I was singing one of the better Beatles songs that was kind of inspiring me, because I was thinking of one of my favorite designers that I could do a designer spotlight on, and that would be Alan Moon. Obviously, you know him very well from Ticket to Ride, which is one of the best travel games out there. He took a great game. He made a simple mechanic where you're picking up cards, you're laying them down to add tracks. And not only did he take that great game, but he also expanded it over the years to many different levels. He made Ticket to Ride Markland, where you have passengers. He made new versions. He made Switzerland, Nordic, where you have ferries as well. He made these newer versions, the Great Britain one, where now you have to get technology before you could do certain things, as well as the Pennsylvania one, where you're dealing with stocks. So he not only took his basic game and turned that basic game into multi variations along the way, and that's shows the long-lasting power of this game, which has sold millions of copies around the world. A great game that I highly recommend. Some of his other games that I also think are great: Elfin Roads. This is one of his older games when he was still with White Wind. It's actually being republished by Rio Grande right now, and it's all about you're kind of following pathways and delivering things along the path. So it's another great little travel-y kind of game. He also has a few other games that I would highly recommend. One of them is the 10 Days series, 10 Days in the USA, 10 Days in Asia. And not only do you learn about travel and learn about locations with these games, but you also obviously get a lot about real geography in the world. So I think it's a very educational game as well, and a game that I would also highly recommend. One of his last games, or that I also think is a really good travel game, was Airlines Union Pacific, which was kind of you're playing down tracks, you're getting stock, and he did a lot of train games during his time. He also did Santa Fe, another train game where you're laying down track and collecting. So obviously one of his best things is train games, and I would highly recommend a lot of those games as well. So that's my designer spotlight for this week. Alan Moon, great designer, great person, and now I'm back to the Beatles. Ride, she's got a ticket to ride, and she don't care.
Hi everybody! One of the magical things about board games, like a book or a movie, is that they can transport you to faraway places, both real and imagined. But for today's theme, I thought I'd take the travel part fairly literally and highlight a game that is a bit older and maybe just a bit underappreciated. Jet Set from Würfel Games looks like an airline version of Ticket to Ride, but it plays very differently. In Jet Set, you have cities and routes to connect them, but what you really need to pay attention to is your money, because grabbing routes and sending out planes costs money, a lot of it, but if you don't have both of those, you can't win the game. Each player has 2 final flight cards that will net some power points if you can complete one before the end of the game, and these usually dictate your overall route strategy. But you have to grab some of those short routes quickly too, because this is the only way you're going to gain income, and those short routes don't always fit your bigger plan. But without income, either through routes or through having players place planes on your routes, you're going to go nowhere fast. One of the things I really like about Jet Set is that the actions are actually quite simple. You can buy a route, place a plane, take a flight card, or take income. But the choices out of those actions are really tough. Want to see what I'm talking about? Buying a route is easy. Pick the route, place your marker on it, and pay the cost. But deciding how many planes to put down there now is difficult, because placing planes when you buy the route is when they're going to be the cheapest, but figuring out the right number to put down and how many you can afford can be agonizing. Placing a plane is easy. Pick the route you want and put a plane on it and pay the fee. But planes are more expensive now, and if you place a plane on a route someone else owns, you have to pay them for every plane. Taking a flight card is easy. Not only do they provide endgame points, but they also provide income. But for each card, you must remove one of your planes on the route for each leg. So if you didn't put out enough planes earlier, you could end up planeless on a critical route later in the game. Taking income is easy. Each flight card you buy gets chips on it. You get 5 income for each card with a chip and 2 income for each empty card. Actually, there's nothing much difficult here other than the timing. And that's kind of true for the whole game. Timing is important, and you'll never have enough money to do everything that you want. The flight decks are stacked with 2 vacation cards each. When any 2 vacation cards are revealed, the endgame is triggered. This is when players race to try to complete a final flight card. When the game is over, players add up the points on their flight cards, and whoever has the most wins. Jet Set is tense, strategic, and fun, but not perfect. Because the choices are difficult, sometimes players can get bogged down by the decision making, so there is the potential for AP. But because there's only 1 action per turn, the overall pacing feels pretty good. And I've heard some complaints about the art in the game, but the graphic design is intended to make it as clear and playable as possible, which it does quite well. And who doesn't love plane minis? Jet Set is really a chewy economic game coated in a sweet route building shell. The game rewards strategic thinking balanced with adaptability, and I really like that. The game is a little bit too tight to serve as a gateway game like Ticket to Ride, but it is a vastly more rewarding gamerly gaming experience, whatever that means. Now, Jet Set was released in 2008, which in gamer years is an eternity, but from a gameplay point of view, Jet Set is still flying high. See you next time.
And that is our show, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us. I hope you had a good time. A big thanks to all my contributors, as always. And come on back in 2 weeks, where we're going to be talking sugar and spice and everything dice. Our dice episode, come on back for that. I will see you then. And as always, hey, stay a friend of the blend. I'll see you.